Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.
We came to get down too. Welcome back to the Northland Sports Page. Little Rob Bass. It takes two. It does certainly take two of us in studio. It's Brian Prudhomme, Dave Hoops today. And of course on Time for Two More, which airs tomorrow after Vikings Fan Line, Vikings and Falcons tomorrow at noon in Atlanta. But after Fan Line, it'll be Time for Two More. And the two more that you hear from are myself, Brian Prudhomme, and of course Steve Pitoscia. Steve Pitoscia, that's just one of about 1,000 titles that are put upon him these days. He's also part of the Minnesota Wilderness coaching staff. He's the head coach for boys hockey at Duluth East. We just had Andover assistant Jordan Leopold with us today. So I warned Jordan that they would go, one after the other today. We had, Dave Cook in between with the Dave Hoop segment, but a little Section 7 AA hockey rivalry via the phones today. Steve Pitoscia, good morning.
Good morning and happy anniversary to you guys.
Thank you very much. 6 years, who would have thought? There was a time, and I know I tweeted as much this week, where I didn't think we were getting 6 weeks, but we have persevered. We're still going.
Yep, and thank goodness because you guys are the best. So,
well, I truly appreciate that. Speaking of the best, the Minnesota Wilderness, for the most part, have looked like it. Now, they had a long win streak stop last night, but to say that this team has played some good hockey might be a bit of an understatement.
Yeah, we've got a really good group of guys. It's sure fun to come to the rink and work with these guys. Last night wasn't maybe our best showing, but we play a lot of games, and if you win 10 in a row, that number 11 seems to get really hard. As we saw at Fargo last night, they lost their 10-game win streak too. So there must be something about that 10-game mark. But it was a good run to get there, and it consisted over 2 weeks in Alaska, which you don't often go up there and win 4 in a row. So there's a lot of positives that have happened so far this year. And last night, I would say, we kind of stunk, and just to put it bluntly, but we did that as a team as well. So I guess you got to find some positives somewhere. So.
Speaking of positives, tell us a little bit about this roster, because I feel like, and I could be way off base because you know how emotionally invested I get when it comes to talking about the Wilderness. My emotions are at an all-time high whenever they come up. But with this fan base, I feel like there are some that know this team backwards and forwards, and then there might be others that don't know them at all. Tell us a little bit about the names of who we should be looking out for on this Wilderness team.
Well, of course, when I think of local guys that especially that you and Dave love, and that has been just a treat for me to actually start to get to know Bo Janzig from Hermantown.
Yeah,
that our local folks should be very well aware of. He's an Air Force commit playing with us, and Bo's just such a great person. It's great to work with him. Other local guys, we've got Nick Troutline from Evelyn down here, and he's done a heck of a job with us. Trying to think, we just acquired Ren Morkay back from the Grand Rapids native, back from Sioux City of the USHL. So that's a huge bump to our roster on the back end. So we've got some local flavor, and we've got some absolute stars on this team that are I think people will hear of in the future. Guys like Ashton Doms, Lakeville kid, Lakeville South kid that's up here playing with us, started in Green Bay this year, and then I think he scored like 11 goals in 12 games, or 16 goals in 12 games or something like that. It's more than a goal a game, but it's a fun roster, and it's a lot of fun to work with these guys, and we're here at the rink now cutting up video for today's meetings, but which maybe not as fun, but it's sure it is a treat, and Colton St. Clair, our head coach, is one of the up and coming guys in hockey. So to be able to work with him and learn a lot from him, and a lot of stuff that we'll be able to bring into our East season. So looking forward to that as well. So just a lot of good things around here.
Hey, Steve, good morning. Great to listen to this because I think people maybe are missing out by not getting down to those games. The last 4 or 5 years, of course, a ton of Finn's friends played, especially like Charlie Erickson. And I went to a number of games, and it is great hockey. It's a great environment. And, of course, while I listen to you, you're great as a coach because the emotion and love you put into these players just really, it was the same way when you coached my boy. So it's great listening to it. Thank you.
Yeah, well, if you don't have passion for it, you probably shouldn't be doing it. So you get to work with and meet so many great people doing this that it's such a blessing to be able to do this. Even when all those years of doing it as a volunteer was a blessing, and now to actually have this as a job, it's I couldn't ask for a whole lot more. So.
The thing is, though, is you do have a whole lot more, because let's talk about the combo platter of jobs that will soon present itself. We're getting awfully close to the high school hockey season. You will once again be the head coach for a Duluth East program that you are really starting to turn around, but you're going to stay with the Wilderness as well. Now, I got to think there's a lot of people out there going, well, how does that work, coaching high school and coaching juniors? There are times where those are competing ideas. I know you don't know yet because you haven't had them going simultaneously, but how do you feel that those two jobs are going to go for you?
Well, I think it's going to be a lot of work, and thank goodness that I've got a wife that's very supportive and helps me do this. If it wasn't for her, none of this would even be possible. But the Wilderness stuff, we're usually done here with the team stuff, in the early afternoon, and the high school stuff doesn't get going until the evening. So, it's coaching high school sports in Minnesota requires you to have another job, and this just happens to be mine. So, I think it's going to be a lot of work, and I think it's going to be a lot of time, but it's all time and work that I love to do. So, I have no intention of cheating our East kids. That's, you'll find this hard to believe, anybody who knows me, though. I'm looking forward to being back in charge come Monday. So,
I feel shocked.
That's one thing. As a self-proclaimed world-class know-it-all, I am excited to be back at the helm. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to working with our young kids at East, and of course, within the rules of the high school leagues, we had a great summer, and I just can't wait to see those guys at the rink again. And then I get to come here in the mornings and work with these guys, and it's the best of both worlds, if you ask me. And I'll miss a dozen or so Wilderness games over the course of the winter here, but thank goodness that the organization is willing to let me put Duluth East as my priority and still continue to work here. So it's great on all fronts so far. So I'm sure there'll be some hiccups throughout the year, but we'll do our best to try to let those negatively affect anybody else. So.
Chatting with Steve Pitoscia, head coach of boys hockey at Duluth East, also part of the Minnesota Wilderness coaching staff. And Steve, as if hockey doesn't give you enough jobs, then you got guys like me that gives you another, co-hosting time for two more with me, following Vikings non-primetime games. We go on after Vikings Fan Line. We will do that again tomorrow. I told you that I think this show is going over well because it's not just because I'm slower than molasses in January going up stadium stairs, but I was actually delayed last night getting to the press box to call a football game because people were coming up to me to compliment time for two more, and I kind of deflected that to say, it's all Steve Pitoscia. So you are a self-proclaimed know-it-all, but it's been fun to do this show, and it might get in a weird way even more fun because we have no idea what the Jaren Hall era is going to bring. We're going to find out tomorrow. But I also think if he does well or if he does terrible, it might have the phones blowing up too. I feel like fans are intrigued and therefore should have a lot to say.
Yeah, I don't think it's a win-win for us. I think of all years for us to start a show, this was probably as good as it gets when it comes to Vikings football. I'm excited to see the Jaren Hall era begin. I mean, look at what Brock Purdy did last year with the San Francisco 49ers. Are we going to get that? Who knows? Maybe not. Chances are we probably aren't going to get that. But you know what? We got a little hope right now with some new stuff that we'll get to see and some young guys that will have to step up. And I certainly feel better about our offensive line and where that's going, the direction that's going. You got to be happy with the progress that Flores has made with our defense, and hopefully the offense can rebound without Kirk Cousins at the helm. And eventually we'll get JJ back. And I don't know, I was a little more draft focused after last weekend, even after the win. But I think after, thinking about it, what the heck, we got 9 weeks here to see what this kid can do. And who knows, maybe it'll be lightning in a bottle.
I think that'll be the interesting part because, Dave Hoops, I know you have a lot on this, and the Vikings did use the trade deadline to pick up Josh Dobbs, and I think everybody's hoping that maybe we don't see him because maybe Jaren Hall figures this out, and Dobbs is nothing more than the insurance policy that we want him to be. The circumstances, obviously, and how we got here are just awful. But maybe it is your positivity rubbing off on people because here we are going into a game at 500 at Atlanta without arguably our two best players, both on injured reserve, JJ and Kirk. Yet we're kind of feeling pretty good about this team. What's going on here, Dave Hoops?
Well, Steve's doing a really good job mirroring my thoughts because last week, I know you guys were talking about it, but, KOC just put him in and let him throw the ball, and everybody was yelling and screaming about that, but we talked about it. You knew he was going to play. You knew that Kirk was really hurt, and like Steve just said, rookie quarterbacks do perform. You're going to dumb down the offense. He's right about the O-line. Our D has an opportunity to Kirk Cousin it up and be the leaders of this team. And most Vikings fans would expect, the next 5 games? Well, I would expect 5 wins. Most regular Vikings fans would expect 3 or 4 if Kirk was playing. Well, let's go at it with the same thing. And like you just said, maybe Dobbs will just be an insurance policy. And this kid's going to make mistakes. Let's give him an opportunity. And we just got to squeak into the playoffs. He wins a game. He's a legend in the playoffs already.
Yeah, I will go that route. I panicked a little bit when the Vikings got Josh Dobbs, only because the last time they picked up a quarterback named Josh, it didn't go well. That was the infamous Josh Freeman game. But, Steve, I want to piggyback off that a little bit because I might be more intrigued by what Jaren Hall does if he gets this many starts, say in game 2 or 3. Because tomorrow there's still the element of the unknown that works in his favor. Nobody knows what to expect. If he does even fairly well for a week or two, that third week, when now they've got film on this guy, they've got tendencies, then what can he do? Are you intrigued by that?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think, it's kind of, like you said, once they start getting video on this guy and they can start picking up on those tendencies, then, it's going to be more of a challenge. And but I'll tell you what, I turned the corner this week listening to an interview that he did, and he wasn't overwhelmed by the moment when when Kirk got hurt, and he talked about his preparation, and to me that's a very mature response out of a rookie quarterback, and that's leadership, and so I think he takes this job serious. I mean, listen, we've been used to the Kellen Monds of the world where the coaches are wondering if this kid's really a pro, and so to see Hall come in and not be overwhelmed by the moment. That to me that's pretty big for a rookie in the NFL to carry yourself that way. Now, will the execution show that on the field? I guess we'll find out here tomorrow. But at least the mindset's right. At least the attitude and what their approach is. At least his approach as a professional young quarterback is in the right lane. So that's all good for me.
I would agree with that. The other question I have is kind of a how did we get here? Because in the first few weeks, this Vikings defense wasn't very good. We saw Brian Flores' personality within it, but we all said, imagine what this coordinator could do if he had any personnel worth a darn. Now, all of a sudden, and again, circumstances have dictated it, but we're going, this defense isn't half bad. I'm wondering if that's true or if it's the fact that they've played some pretty poor teams, because all of a sudden now, you're kind of hoping that the hallmark of your team's success is that defense. Nobody expected that throughout the course of this season. Either of you can chime in on this. Has this defense truly turned a corner, or have they benefited from the teams they've been playing, or is the collective answer just yes?
Well, I think part of it is just basic human development, right? Like it takes a while to develop habits, and you've got a new coordinator in there, run new schemes and do new things, and until it becomes a habit and you don't have to think about it, it's slower. And so now it takes about 12, 14 weeks to really develop a habit. And so, where are we right now in the season? We're about at that point. So we're starting to see, when you filter in training camp and all that stuff, we're in the OTAs, we're starting to see those habits now just become habits, those things that they've been taught and the things that they're doing. And so I think that's a huge part of it. I think just becoming accustomed to the coach, the scheme, the system, and the structures and all that, I think that way is huge into it. And you got some pretty talented guys on that defense with Harrison Smith and so you got some pros and some veterans, and you got a great coach, and now it's all starting to come together. At least that's how I see it.
A little Lou Brown in there, starting to come together. Pepper starting to come together. I like it, but at the same time, this might be proof as to whether or not Vikings fans have truly turned a corner. Anytime that former Vikings were going against them, we thought, well, the script says this guy will dominate. You've got Cordero, you've got Taylor Heineke getting the start tomorrow. Any fear from either of those two?
No, not Cordell at all. And Heineke, I think his lack of arm strength, which is why he didn't stick with us and why he didn't stick in Washington and why he is going to be a journeyman quarterback when it's all said and done as a career in the NFL, which is nothing to be ashamed of, mind you. I just think that probably plays into our defense and that secondary a little bit more. And so I'm happy to see that he's playing, and he doesn't bring any fear to me, that's for sure. And I think Cordell, his days have kind of come and gone for what he was supposed to be.
And you called him Cordell twice. Dave Cook has been an influence on you. He says hello, by the way. Dave Hoops, go ahead.
I agree with you about Heineke. I think he's got a little Brett Favre in him without the Brett Favre arm strength skills or luck. And so our defense is probably going to get, those 2 interceptions in San Francisco, that was unusual. I think we're going to get some turnovers tomorrow, and this team is starting to hold on to the ball. They score 18, 20 points, they could probably win this game. That's my hope.
I would agree with that. We are chatting with Steve Pitoscia, wrapping up a segment with Steve. He has many hats. He's a co-host for me on Time for Two More. He's part of the coaching staff for the Minnesota Wilderness. He is the head coach for Duluth East boys hockey. Even last night, Mike Scrignoli told me that Steve Pitoscia is one of the smartest people he knows. Steve, I know you'll be shocked through our 30 years of friendship, but I told Scriggs he's just got to meet more people then, but that's how things go. But let's wrap it all up together as best we can.
That speaks very highly of Scriggs.
Yeah, that checks out, right? Everything in that conversation checks out beautifully. But let's tie it all together like any good public speaking segment should. Tell us when we can catch the Minnesota Wilderness again. Tell us a little bit about what to expect, at least in terms of brand of hockey from the Greyhounds this season. And then I'm going to put you on the spot. A Vikes score for tomorrow.
Yeah, so we play the St. Cloud. The Wilderness play the St. Cloud Norsemen tonight at Northwoods Credit Arena out here in Cloquet. 7:15 puck drop is what to expect. I think you'll see a pretty hungry group of Wilderness guys that will be ready to go today. And we play a good brand of hockey. We really do. There's a lot of talent on this team, and there's a lot of guys on this team that you'll be seeing playing college hockey in the next couple of years. So I think it's a worthwhile ticket to come and watch. And being that the Gophers are in town playing the Dogs and it's deer hunting season, I'm sure there'll be plenty of tickets available tonight. So we'd love to have you in the crowd to come watch. It's a good brand of hockey, it really is. For the Greyhounds, I think we're returning 5 of our 6 top forwards, so I think we'll be pretty good up front. We'll be an older team. I think we'll have good depth. We're only returning 3 guys on the blue line. I'm sorry, 2 guys on the blue line, but we got another guy coming back to East from Chaska and Luke Anderson, which will help us out on the back end. And our sophomores had a great summer. And as far as the score, I'm going to say 24 Vikings, 10 Atlanta.
Wow. That might come up on Time for Two More tomorrow, and I'll tell you this. Of all the times that I've hoped you're right, good Lord, I hope you're right tomorrow. That would be a lot of fun.
Me too.
All right, speaking of a lot of fun, this obviously was, and anytime I get to say this, I love it, but I will see you tomorrow, all right?
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Good to hear from you, Dave.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
All right, that's our guy, Steve Pitoscia. You can catch him tomorrow with me after Vikings Fan Line. It's called Time for Two More, and we bring it to you tomorrow after Vikings-Falcons. Hopefully a victory. I'll buy that. We're going to play buy or sell next. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players. Pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.
He's bidding his heart goodbye. Meanwhile, we're saying hello. Welcome back to the Northland Sports Page. Brian Prudhomme, Dave Hoops. Dave Cook will be with us by phone very shortly once again as we play buy or sell. We want you to buy everything that these businesses are selling. These are our great sponsors. 6 years into the Northland Sports Page. 6-year anniversary is today. We would not be here if not for a Roll Architecture Studio. They bring you drawing lines each and every week. That'll be our final segment today with Vencie Glenn, former Minnesota Vikings safety. Also, Hoops Brewing. Dave Hoops is right across from me as we speak. The best beer in town is at Hoops Brewing. OAR Holdings of Duluth. Kraus Heating and Cooling, your Carrier HVAC authorized dealer. Advantage Emblem and Screen Printing. Sammy's Pizza. The Blackwoods Group and their plethora of locations throughout the Northland. Avenue 45. Mount Royal Bottle Shop. Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies. Pier B Resort. Kohler Toyota and Kohler Hyundai. And, of course, our friends at Comfort Systems. Dave Cook is back. Is this the busiest your phone has ever been? Nobody calls anybody anymore. We all text.
Well, and nobody calls me at all. So, yeah, I think this is about as busy as my phone's been. It's actually getting a little warm. So, yeah, that was a good segment with Steve, by the way. I did listen. See, I can do this.
I was going to say, so now I have to ask, because Jordan Leopold is one of your hockey heroes because of where he went to school. You didn't listen to him. Now, Pitoscia is a hero to all of us, but what made you take the plunge and listen to that segment?
Well, Steve's a friend. You got to listen to your friends first, right?
Closed circuit to Jordan Leopold. You and Dave Cook are apparently not friends. Please continue.
No, not what I meant. It's like Steve. I know Steve. Like I've told you the story about my dad was thrilled to meet Steve because of the conversations that we've had, but plus the Duluth East coach and Marshall assistant coach. And so Steve means a lot, more than just another guy.
Yeah, Steve absolutely means a lot to the success of this show and, of course, to all of us as a friend as well. I mentioned kind of Steve Pitoscia and Topher Davis in the same breath because where would we be without either one? Topher helped us stay afloat when he was here, and when Topher moved away, it created an opportunity for Steve Pitoscia to be part of us, and he's jumped right in willingly.
Yeah, a huge part of what we've done, both sides. You know, we were sponsored by Lake Superior Law for a long time, you know, until Toph left the area, right? And so, yeah, we've had a lot of people involved, you know, not to mention the guy sitting across the desk from you.
Absolutely. Anytime I get to see Dave Hoops, it's a positive feeling, and his positivity is infectious. So I'm just waiting for me to just ooze optimism throughout the next day and a half as the Vikings kick off at noon tomorrow in Atlanta. Should be fun to at least see what Jaren Hall will bring us. Dave Cook, you're always about the kids. I'm assuming you've got an opinion on what you at least think or hope to see from him.
Yeah, I think Steve hit it on the head. That was his big claim to fame is 25 years old, leadership abilities. Well, that's kind of what the Vikings need. They need somebody mature at quarterback who can just not fall off the face of the earth. And so I think they've got a guy that should fit that. I just don't know if he's got so many guys that we could sure use who are injured, you know, speaking of one particular wide receiver. And JJ would make a huge difference. I hope he can make hay with what he's got.
Yeah, we'll see. It certainly feels like the fan base is ready to buy in to Jaren Hall as the quarterback. Again, nobody likes the circumstances and how we got here. I think even the biggest Kirk haters are somewhat sympathetic towards the situation he's going through and realizing just how good he was. I hope we don't do that in hindsight, realize how good Kirk was because Jaren Hall is busy floundering. So we're all buying into whatever Jaren Hall can do. We'll see what he brings us tomorrow. But speaking of buying, time to play buy or sell, and here's how it works. I'm going to give a statement to each of the four major pro sports leagues, NBA, MLB, NHL, NFL. If you agree with what I'm saying, you say buy and you tell me why. If you disagree with what I'm saying, you say sell and you tell me why. Now, technically, we usually have somebody on the phone pick the order. But since my usual co-host Dave Cook is the guy on the phone and Dave Hoops is in studio, we're going to alter that today. We're going to let Dave Hoops still give us the order. He's just right here physically to be able to do it. So which league would you like to tackle first?
Let's start with the NBA because this in-season tournament is kind of fun, and I was watching some basketball last night.
I'm glad you said that because buy or sell, and maybe you just gave it away, buy or sell that the in-season tournament from the NBA is a good idea.
Do I get to start?
Sure.
I think it's a great idea because, nobody really is that concerned or interested in the beginning of the season except for just junkies. And, of course, we have college basketball next week, which is arguably, more attractive to me anyway. But I like them having an opportunity to play for something. They're going to play it in Vegas.
Yep.
We all know Vegas is going to get a team. In fact, I think LeBron's probably going to be one of the owners. So I'm buying. I think it's fun.
Dave Cook, what do you got?
Well, I think it is make-believe, but
Yes.
I'm happy to see something new. I'll give them credit for taking a swing on something new, and I 100% agree that this is kind of Vegas's dress rehearsal for the team that they get whenever they get it.
Yeah, I'll buy that, and I'll barely buy that this is a good idea because, frankly, I don't understand it. I think make-believe is a great way to categorize it because it just seems a little bit silly, and it is about money, and Vegas kind of puts the exclamation point on that. But I'm also going to buy it somewhat tongue-in-cheek because let's say the Timberwolves do well in this. Minnesota sports could actually finally say they won something, and we don't do that very often. So it is a possibility for the Timberwolves there, too. I want to give you guys a little bit of a bonus NBA one, too, because I was going to go here, but then I thought, well, there's no NBA to speak of here, so does it count? But Bob Knight passed away this week. And for me, he's an ultimate legend, not just in college basketball, but in the world of sports. Controversial, certainly, but talked about as a result. And I think we all kind of had a little bit of sadness when we heard of his passing. So here's a bonus NBA buy or sell. Buy or sell that you would have liked to have seen Bobby Knight as an NBA head coach.
I'm going to have to sell that one. I think that Coach Knight was maybe the best of some of what we can see in basketball and coaching and some of the worst. And I don't think it would have been a good fit. So I'm going to have to sell that.
All right, Dave Cook, what do you got?
I am going to agree with Dave Hoops, but for a different reason. I think, looking back at that with today's eyes, Dave's 100% right, that it wasn't a good look and it wasn't the right way to do it. But back then, that's how they did it. The problem is that style in the NBA where guys are making money never would have worked. He'd have pushed the chair on somebody and the rest of the team would have thrown him out the bus. So I just don't think his personality would have worked in the NBA.
Yeah, also for the same reason. I think it would have fit horribly, but that almost made me want to buy just because you want to see, what kind of explosiveness does it lead to? Does he get forced back to college basketball like so many others who tried to make the jump and failed did? And if he gets humbled by it, does he change in that second tenure at the college level? I just think Bob Knight's trajectory as a coach would have changed if he tried the NBA, and maybe we're better served that he didn't. All right, so we've got one league down, 3 to go. Dave Hoops, what's next?
Oh, let's go with football, NFL.
All right, the NFL, and we've kind of been talking about it in generalities for about the last 20, 30 minutes. But it is the Jaren Hall era, for better or for worse, or perhaps the Josh Dobbs era if Jaren Hall doesn't do well. The Vikings are right at that proverbial middle ground, 4-4, and at the moment would be in the playoffs. Now, most are discounting them because Kirk is done and JJ hasn't played in the better part of a month. Buy or sell, simply this. The Minnesota Vikings have what it takes to be a playoff team.
Well, you know my answer.
Yes, I do, and I want that optimism. That's why I laid it up for you.
Well, I really think that the NFC's weak. Those bottom couple teams, it's going to be a 500 team that's going to be in the mix, and there's no reason that the Vikings can't win half their upcoming games that I can see. I think they'll win more than that. So I think they're going to squeak into the playoffs, and like I said, they might get a sneaky victory, and then everybody will be talking different. So I'm buying. So
usually we go from the opposite of the optimist is Dave Cook. Go ahead.
Yeah, and will remain. I think, can they? Sure. Will they? Gosh, I hope not. Brian, this is a really good year to pick up a few more draft picks. This team is thin as paper. We just need some talent. And if they go into the playoffs and get as the 7 seed, get knocked off because their kid quarterback isn't ready for prime time yet, and they draft 19th, that's just going to hurt the future of the franchise. We need picks, higher picks, and so yeah, can they? Sure. Do I want them to? No. Their schedule leads them. I mean, it's an easy schedule. There's every reason to believe they can.
So I'm going to buy that they have what it takes, and I'm going to focus on those 3 words, what it takes, because I agree with what Dave Hoops said. The NFC, Paul Allen has described it this way, and I think everybody else has too, murky at best. You can be 500-ish and be right in the thick of it. Now, Dave Cook is probably also right. Is it worth getting in to win one game or play one game and lose and be done? I don't know, but at the same time, if you don't want them to make the playoffs, I advise you not to watch. And for Dave Cook, maybe he doesn't need that advisement because he doesn't watch very often anyway. But at the same time, I still look at it as you're 4-4 right now. Unless you lose out, I'm not sure 4 wins is going to have you very high on the draft board anyway. You could miss the playoffs barely and still be stuck 15th or so. And I'm not sure unless you make a major move to move up that the draft board is a goal anymore. I agree that they're paper thin, but you may have already won yourself out of Caleb Williams or what have you in terms of high draft pick status. So might as well go make the playoffs. Have some fun with it. All right, we're halfway there. 2 left.
No, let's go hockey.
All right, this is difficult because the Minnesota Wild are not good, but they're 10 games in. So give them a month and they could be completely different. They've been bad, but they've also been injured. So I'm going to focus on the injury front. Right before the season, Jared Spurgeon got hurt, and it was told to all of us that he was going to miss some time. And I asked back then, is Jared Spurgeon's absence a devastating injury? And we all said, no, we'll sell that because Brodin's still here. Addison's going to be okay. Faber's the man. We're going to be fine. Through 10 games, not so much. So buy or sell that we underestimated Jared Spurgeon's value in general.
Oh, I'm thinking I'm gonna sell. I'm looking forward to him coming back, and I think that he's going to add some necessary leadership to that team, and just a little bit of grit that they're not showing at all. So you're sure that's not reason to buy? Maybe we did underestimate him. You buy that we didn't give him enough credit. I misspoke. I meant to buy.
So you're a Jared Spurgeon guy. You're buying. Dave Cook, what about you?
I think proof's in the pudding. I think you have to buy this one simply because of what we're seeing. You know, if you didn't think he was important to that level, I'll give you credit. But look what we're seeing. They need somebody to help right the ship, and maybe we over or underestimated his value.
I agree. I'm going to buy because I think you have to. Because if you don't, the other reality is then you're just bad. Because if you don't think adding Jared Spurgeon back to the mix is going to help you solve some of your defensive problems, then you've got a goaltending problem. And you didn't think you had it because you thought Gus Bus was the man. And you've got Stanley Cup cred with Marc-Andre Fleury playing as well. If Jared Spurgeon comes back and you're still struggling in the same area as you are now, it might just be a very bad Minnesota Wild team, which is going to be weird to get used to because we talk about it tongue-in-cheek that we all know Minnesota sports isn't used to success, but you could easily argue that the Minnesota Wild have been the most consistent. The Timberwolves are always said to be bad. The Vikings are always said to be heartbreaking. The Twins are always said to maybe get you to the playoffs, but don't expect much after that. The Minnesota Wild are always in it. Playoffs is a gimme. After that is nothing. Wild not making the playoffs might be weird for this state to handle. So we're going to close with Major League Baseball. And this is tough for me because I wrestled with even asking this question or using this statement as buy or sell. So Dick Bramer is leaving the broadcast booth television-wise for the Twins. It was announced by the team. This was not necessarily Dick Bramer's decision. We can get into that if we want to. But he leaves as the longest tenured TV voice in baseball. That being said, buy or sell that you put him among the iconic voices in baseball broadcasting.
I guess I have to sell only because he's the voice of the Twins for me, and I love him, but you can't Harry Carey, Jack Buck. No, I can't go there yet.
I tend to agree, but I'll let Dave Cook go first.
I'm 100% in agreement. He is an icon for the state, but no, he's not an icon. I mean, we're talking about Vin Scully. We're talking about Euchre. We're talking about people like Dave said, Harry Carey. We're not talking about Dick Bramer being that level. Like, he's ours, but he's not that.
Absolutely. It's a bit of a shame that he's not that because you look at the seniority and he's right there, but you look at the iconic nature and the memorable calls and it just isn't there. In fact, even being someone who's 44, so Dick Bramer had the majority of my watching life as him being the broadcaster, I don't even think of him first. I think of Herb Carneal first because for so many years of my childhood, finding the Twins on TV wasn't really possible. So I was always a radio guy. And then the first TV broadcaster that I met in person, I met Dick Bramer many times after all was said and done, but I met Ted Robinson first. And Ted Robinson to me was a bigger deal at the time. All the credit in the world to Dick Bramer, and I'm really disappointed in the Twins for not giving him a proper farewell. I completely understand why this should be it. 40 is a nice round number, and I say this as nicely as I can because as a play-by-play guy, I'll be sure to let you know when I do a perfect game because I do nothing close to it. But the amount of mistakes that Dick Bramer was making this season, there was a time, and I mean this as respectfully as possible, I wondered if he was healthy because it was stuff you just didn't expect. So whether he's losing it or not, the Twins are losing a great ambassador for the team, but that's why they made sure they're not, because they stuck him in that ambassador role. But he should have been able to say a proper goodbye, and I don't feel like he did.
Nope, I agree with you 100% on that one, Brian. 100%.
All right, so we are buying what everybody's selling today. It was a fun segment again. Dave, happy anniversary. I certainly hope we get to anniversary number 7. Heck, I hope we get to anniversary number 40. I hope we live that long and continue to have this much fun. But again, I'm worried about the outlook for the show going forward because you're not here today and you're not here next week either. So I say a longer goodbye today.
Yeah, no, next week is an important one, but we will absolutely be on a little bit with you for sure, and back the week after that with Bells. And hopefully that'll be the last time we miss for the year.
There you go. I will see you then. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Get healthy. It'll be interesting to watch the College of St. Scholastica survive athletically without you. If anybody ever doubts the amount of work that you do, I had to call about 7-8 people just to replace you. So your value should never be underestimated by anyone going forward.
Nice of you to say, and thank you for helping.
Absolutely. Thank you for 6 great years. Here's to many more. Have a good weekend, my friend.
Yep, see ya.
Absolutely. That's our guy, Dave Cook. That is buy or sell. We draw lines with the Roll Architecture Studio and Vencie Glenn to close the show. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.
That is the safety dance, which means, of course, my favorite safety is right around the corner. Vencie Glenn joins us, part of Drawing Lines. That is courtesy of Roll Architecture Studio. That's one of our illustrious sponsors. That was the OG. That was the first in our 6 years to the day of the Northland Sports Page. Also, Hoops Brewing, OAR Holdings of Duluth, Kraus Heating and Cooling, your Carrier HVAC authorized dealer, Advantage Emblem and Screen Printing, Sammy's Pizza, the Blackwoods Group and their plethora of locations throughout the Northland, Avenue 45, Mount Royal Bottle Shop, Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies, Pier B Resort, Kohler Toyota and Kohler Hyundai, and our friends at Comfort Systems. Again, 6 years to the day. That's how long this show's been going. It was 11/4/17 that this show started. We were talking a lot about the Vikings then, and we will right now with former Viking Vencie Glenn. Vencie's a staple on the show, and good morning.
Good morning, man. Happy anniversary, pal.
Yeah, thank you very much. It still baffles me that anybody wants to give me 6 minutes on the radio, much less 6 years, but you've been a huge part of our success, so I should be thanking you as well.
No, you deserve it, man. It's great and an honor to be part of the show.
Well, we love having you. Now, you and I joke a lot, both on the show and off, about your emotions when it comes to Kirk Cousins. In fact, you've told me, don't ask me about number 8 on your show anymore. Well, this isn't the circumstances by which we hope to get there. The injury is devastating, and frankly, it's sad, but it is a bit of a new beginning as well with Jaren Hall getting the start tomorrow. What's your take on this team? Because they're playing better, but you talked about this team was dependent on 2 guys going into the season, probably too much with Kirk and JJ. Now you're going to Atlanta without either one. How the heck did we get here, and what happens now?
Let me start by making this perfectly clear. I am not against Kirk Cousins personally.
I know.
I don't speak on. He might be one of the greatest teammates, guys. I just talk football, and I don't like to see nobody get hurt. Period. I don't care what kind of injury it is. I don't like that. So the situation is the situation, and it's football, and you have to play team football if you're talking about winning Super Bowls. And my whole illusion was this is a team that's focused around 2 guys and the offense. And I just know personally you can't win Super Bowl or championships when it's like that. So moving forward, your 2-star guys that you rave about and think going to be there 17 weeks are not there anymore. Now, who do you look for? Now guys are looking around the locker room saying, who's going to take over? Harrison Smith he on defense. You know, so now you have guys that got to step up against a tough division. You know, and it was a great win and a starting point against San Francisco. And then now this happens, and you have to regroup, and it's hard in the middle of the season. It's very hard. And so moving forward, you just got to, depend on the guys in the locker room, and hopefully the coach knows how to coach them up right to just keep them in every ball game and have a chance to win. And that's all you want is a chance to win in the fourth quarter in any game.
You talked about Harrison Smith being on defense and maybe not affected directly, not being a quarterback, not being a wide receiver, but how are teammates affected mentally by something like this? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but you've kind of been there. You played in a Viking era where I think there was McMahon and Salisbury, maybe Moon and Salisbury, Gannon and Salisbury. You had other quarterbacks playing. How does it affect the different positions in the mentality of the game?
Oh, I'll give you a prime example, and I say it all the time. When you rely on your defense throughout the year, and they play so hard, and they in the rankings they're up there because we were always in the top 10, and in '93 we were number 1. When you get to the playoffs, you're just praying your offense is clicking because you're so tired, and that's what happened to us. And really in '94, we were so tired by the time we got to the playoffs. You know, we just didn't have anything in the tank, and a lot of guys were nicked up. So, you know, getting your proper rest and not playing the extra plays when you should get out on third down, and then you have to go another 4 plays. By the end of the season, that's an extra 80 to 100 plays if you're not careful. So getting off the field is very, very important, and I think their defense is playing with a lot of confidence, and they're making plays, and that's what you need to be successful.
I completely agree with you. This Viking defense seems to have turned a corner. I'd asked some other people in segments prior to you today, Vencie, have the Vikings really turned a corner defensively, or have they benefited from some inferior offenses that they've faced? What have you seen? Is it a little bit of both?
I think it's a little bit of both, but learning a new system is always difficult. But I'm highly impressed with the way Harrison Smith is playing this year, and Bynum. I think they're as a tandem. They're playing well. They're both making plays, and it takes a lot of pressure off the corners when your safeties, both of them, are making plays, and it gives the linebackers a lot more confidence and your defense. So I think the secondary is playing, especially at the safety position, at one of the highest levels on the team.
What do you expect tomorrow from a strategy perspective? Because all the experts are going to say, well, the Vikings are going to have to simplify things now and run better and win with defense. And I'm all for it as long as they get victories. But then you've got Kevin O'Connell, and this could be coach speak, saying, I'm an aggressive coach who likes to throw, and whoever's out there is going to do that. What do you think happens tomorrow in that sense?
Aren't they playing in Atlanta? It is in Atlanta, right?
Yes.
So you got to look at Atlanta. They benched their starting quarterback, Ritter. He's on the bench. So that's a team trying to find their identity. But one thing I will tell you about the Atlanta Falcons, they play hard, they play physical, and in that dome, they play with a lot of intensity. So easing into it and just trying to feel your way around, you'll get behind that team, and they'll put the pedal to the metal on you. So I just think it's a team that just got to go out and play with the identity they've already had on defense. And on offense, just don't make a lot of mistakes. You know, try to keep yourself in the game in the fourth quarter, and hopefully you can win it. They're not going to move the ball up and down the field. The play calling is going to be totally different. And not only that, you got an offensive line that ain't the greatest pass blockers in the world. They got a new quarterback back there. O'Connell, we'll see what he's made of, but it's just going to be a tough environment to play great, but you just got to play consistent.
I agree. You talk about a tough environment. Everybody will say winning on the road in the NFL is difficult, but is it even more difficult when you're bringing in a rookie quarterback? How hopeful should the Vikings be that this game would have been at home? Because then you've got the nookie blankie of the fans basically treating every completion like it's the world's greatest play, where instead the crowd will be against them tomorrow.
Playing home is always great. Everybody likes to just sit around knowing that you're going to play at home all week. But it's part of the game, going on the road. And some teams play better on the road. You know, it's more of a focus thing. At home, everybody wants tickets, you know, and the kids got to go to daycare. The dog got to get groomed. We got to get the food for the, you know, after all that kind of stuff going on. But when you're on the road, man, it's just you and your Warriors, and you go there to handle your business and come back home and celebrate.
When we talk about the NFL, we talk about short weeks, long weeks, depending upon when you played last. But the reality is it's a week. So it's going to be 7 days since the Kirk Cousins devastating injury. Does that make it a little bit easier in terms of adjustment time than, let's say, they played in the NBA? Let's say they played baseball, where a devastating season-ending injury happens on Tuesday. You might play again Wednesday. Does that allow that time in between games, the mind to reset a little bit?
Well, you have to understand the psychological mindset of the football team. They've been with everybody's known Kirk Cousins as the man for 4 years there. I think it's been 4 years or so, and they depend on him. They think he's going to be there. Now, when you look back there and he's not there on the sideline, he's not there in the locker room, that dependence of scoring 20 points a game is not there. Now it's a self-check moment like, hey, man, this locker room is different. First, it was different with Jefferson being out. Now both of them out. That's a big change in the locker room.
It is a big change. It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Vencie, you are the best.
How they deal with it is going to be there.
No doubt. Vencie, you are the best. We talk about changes. I hope you never do. You've been a big part of what we've done for 6 years. Please be part of every show from here on out. We will talk again soon, my friend.
I will do. Appreciate you, pal. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's our guy, 2-5. That is Vencie Glenn. Thank you, Dave Hoops. Thank you, Dave Cook. Thank you, Steve Pitoscia. Thank you, everybody, for making this worth it. Jordan Leopold was guest number 1. 6 years. We'll see you next week.
This podcast is sponsored by Ramp. Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp for free. Just go to ramp.com/easy. Ramp.com/easy. RAMP.com/easy.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members of FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.